Have you ever been sitting alone, maybe on a park bench or by an open window, and a bird landed close to you, closer than it needed to? It tilted its head, looked at you with those quick, dark eyes, and for a moment it didn't fly away. You might have thought it was just looking for food, or that it was simply used to people. But something else was happening, something most of us overlook completely. There is a quiet language that birds have been reading in us for a very long time. They notice shifts in us that even the people closest to us often miss, shifts in our mood, our presence, the invisible shape of how we are in that moment. And they respond to it in ways that, once you understand them, make everyday encounters feel charged with new meaning. Welcome to Wild Perception. Let's step into this together, slowly, because this isn't about quick facts, it's about learning to see yourself through the eyes of something wild, something that watches you far more closely than you might realize. It often starts with something as simple as the way you move. On days when your mind is scattered or restless, your walk changes, your pace quickens, your shoulders tighten, your hands might fidget. You might not notice these things yourself, but a bird does. To a small creature whose survival depends on reading the world in fractions of a second, your movement is not just motion, it's a message. Agitated movement reads like an alarm. Slow, fluid movement reads like safety. The sparrow on the pavement doesn't need to understand your thoughts, it just reads the rhythm of your body and decides whether you can be trusted. Think about the last time you felt genuinely calm, unhurried, maybe even a little wistful. You were probably moving differently. Birds would have noticed that too. They would have registered the gentleness in your step. And sometimes they reward that gentleness by staying near you a few seconds longer. But there's more. Even when you're completely still, you're still communicating with them. Birds notice your breathing. To us, breath is so automatic that we rarely think about it, but to a bird, the rise and fall of your chest is a signal. Shallow, rapid breathing suggests tension, alertness, even fear. Deep, slow breathing suggests a lack of threat. It says, this large being is not preparing to move suddenly. It is not hunting, it is simply existing. When you're sitting in a garden and a robin or a finch moves closer, notice your breath. Often, without knowing it, you've already softened your exhale. You've entered a state of quiet observation, and the bird noticed that shift long before you did. Then there's your voice, even when you're silent. Birds are exquisitely sensitive to tone, but beyond words, they read the quality of your silence. A tense silence, full of suppressed thought, is different from an open, receptive silence. You can feel it in a room with another person. Birds can feel it in a forest, or on a balcony, or across a stretch of grass. They pick up on the quiet electrical hum of your presence. It sounds almost mystical, but it's grounded in something real. Your nervous system shapes your stillness, and birds, being creatures of high alert, sense whether your stillness is heavy or light. This is where it becomes deeply personal. There are days when you carry sadness that no one sees. You might be functioning perfectly well. You speak, you work, you smile in the right places. But underneath, there's a weight. And on those days, something strange often happens. A bird might appear unusually close. It might linger on a branch near your window or walk alongside you in a path. It's as if your quiet heaviness has made you invisible in a different way, not absent, but safe. Birds don't perceive emotional sadness the way we do, but they perceive its physical signature, lowered energy, slower gaze, a kind of soft absence in the eyes. In their world, that can read as non-threatening, almost as if you are not quite there in the predator-prey dynamic, so they draw closer. Maybe that's why, in moments of grief, nature sometimes feels more responsive. The veil thins, you become less of a human presence and more of a shape in the landscape. On the other side, joy stands out to them too. Not loud joy, but bright, attentive joy, the kind that makes you still with wonder. When you're genuinely captivated by something, a flower, a sunset, a bird itself, your face changes. Your pupils dilate slightly. Your body leans forward with soft attention. A bird can see this, and it recognizes that this intense focus is not predatory. It's too open, too curious. Predators are rigid in their focus, wonder is expansive, and birds, especially intelligent ones like crows, magpies, and parrots, seem to recognize that difference. They know when they are being admired rather than stalked. They might even perform a little, cocking their head again, flipping a leaf, making a soft sound, because on some level they understand that this is a conversation. There's something humbling in this, the idea that birds might look at you and actually see your emotional state, not just your shape. And beyond the moment-to-moment signals, there is memory. Birds remember faces. Crows famously hold grudges and teach their offspring to recognize threatening humans. But they also remember kindness. Studies have shown that crows will bring gifts to people who feed them gently over time. Pigeons can distinguish between individuals who have been calm versus those who have been abrupt. Even tiny garden birds like chickadees adjust their behavior based on past encounters with specific humans. What's remarkable here is not just the memory itself, but what they are remembering. They aren't just remembering your jacket or your hat. They are remembering your mood, your emotional consistency, your way of being. The man who always sits quietly and throws crumbs is stored in their mind not just as a food source, but as a familiar emotional presence. The woman who speaks softly to them from her porch is filed away as safe. So when you feel that a particular bird seems to recognize you, you might be right, and it might be recognizing something deeper than your silhouette. This silent relationship deepens when you start to notice the bird's responses to collective human moods. Have you ever walked through a city street on a quiet Sunday morning and noticed more birdsong, more fluttering between rooftops? The absence of rushing, stressed human movement creates a different acoustic and energetic space. Birds respond to the emotional temperature of an entire area. They are environmental barometers, not just for weather, but for the pressure of human emotion. You can feel it. Places of peace attract more visible bird life. Places of constant tension feel oddly empty. This isn't fantasy, it's an extension of what we've already observed. Birds read our autonomic signals and adjust their behavior. When you multiply that across dozens, hundreds of humans, birds get a reading of the larger mood, and you, as one person in that landscape, are contributing to that mood. Your inner state is part of the world they navigate. That is a quietly powerful responsibility. Let's go even deeper, because birds don't just notice your current mood, they can sometimes act as a mirror for it. Think about the last time you felt completely at peace outdoors. The birds were likely active, singing, carrying on their lives around you. They were ignoring you in the most generous way. That indifference is a gift. It means you were so fully present, so non-threatening, that you melted into the background. You became part of their landscape. And in those moments, you probably felt something profound. A sense of belonging to the world, not separate from it. Conversely, on days when you feel agitated or emotionally distant, birds might be noticeably scarce, or they might alarm call at your approach. It can feel like a small rejection, but it's actually an honest reflection. They are showing you with their wings what you might not have admitted to yourself. You are not at ease. You are carrying something unresolved. Birds, in their wild simplicity, become emotional weather vanes. This is where we arrive at the heart of the matter, the emotional meaning that sits beneath all these behaviors. Birds invite us into a state of soft accountability. They don't ask us to perform. They don't need us to be happy. They simply respond to what is real. If you sit with a clenched jaw, they'll notice. If you exhale and let your shoulders drop, they'll notice. They are unbiased witnesses to your nervous system. In their presence, you can't hide from yourself. And maybe that's why a lot of people find solace in birdwatching or simply sitting near a feeder. It's not just about the birds. It's about the way the birds hold up a quiet mirror to your own state of being. They make you aware of what you're holding inside, and often simply becoming aware is the first step towards softening. I've heard stories of people who were going through deep depression and found that the only moments of calm they could access were when a wild bird visited their windsill. They'd sit there, barely breathing, feeling seen by something that didn't want anything from them. The bird didn't need them to explain, it just stayed close. And in that closeness, there was a kind of wordless acknowledgement, I see you and I'm still here. It's almost like birds can sense the space you're in emotionally, and sometimes they choose to step into that space with you. Not to fix it, not to make it go away, just to be near it. That's a form of presence we're not even very good at giving each other as humans, but a bird does it naturally. It sits on the fence, angles its bright eye toward your face, and stays for no other reason than that it feels safe enough to do so. And in that simple staying, something in you quiets. Perhaps this is why the connection feels so personal, so emotionally rich, because it's built on something involuntary and honest. Birds aren't responding to your social mask, they aren't impressed by your achievements or worried about your struggles. They're responding to the quiet biological reality of you, the real song beneath the words. So if you've ever felt a special bond with a bird, a crow that seems to greet you, a robin that follows you around the garden, a pigeon that stares at you through the window, don't dismiss it as wishful thinking. Trust that feeling a little more. That bird has likely registered something consistent in your mood over time, something gentle, something reliable. It has built a file on you, and that file says safe. It says soft presence. It says not a threat. In a world where wild creatures have every reason to flee from us, that is a profound compliment. And even the briefest encounter, the momentary locking of eyes with a bird in a city street, can be meaningful. It's a tiny intersection of two consciousnesses. The bird is reading you, your movements, your breath, your gaze. And in that reading, there's a moment of decision, to stay or to fly, to trust or to fear. And if it stays, even for a second longer than expected, something has been exchanged, something unspoken, something real. The next time you're outside and you notice a bird watching you, pause. Don't make sudden moves, don't try to get closer. Just breathe and notice what you're feeling inside. Are you tense? Are you sad? Are you genuinely peaceful? The bird already knows, but now you can know it too. And there, in that shared awareness, a tiny bridge forms. Wild perception meets human reflection. And in that space, the world feels less lonely. Maybe it wasn't an accident that bird chose to land near you today. Maybe it saw something in you that you had forgotten was there. Have you ever felt this kind of quiet recognition from a wild bird, a moment that stayed with you for reasons you couldn't quite explain? I would genuinely love to hear your story in the comments. Let's gather those small, silent connections. They matter more than we think. Thank you for being here and for bringing your attention to the wild, wordless world that notices us back. Until next time, move gently. The birds are watching.